Okay, we are officially recording. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you hanging on and being willing to be recorded and having this conversation shared. It's going to be a really interesting conversation with Mackenzie today about recruiting and the workforce. So, friendly reminder, of course, we all know this by now, I'm sure, but if you are not speaking, please mute yourself. If it's August of 2021 and we don't know that, well, there's Zoom calls by now. I don't know what we're doing. I can't help you. We have a Slack channel. We talk about this regularly. I think we get one or two invite requests every time we have one of these meetings. So if you haven't already joined the Slack channel, jump in. It's a good time. There's an SOS line that gets used pretty regularly when folks need help. So don't hesitate to join the group and get some help from your community members. So jump on. You can just send an email to kansascity.us/user@trailblazercgl.com, and Dale and I will hook you up. If you don't know by now, or if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. The KC Salesforce community, there are a couple of different ways that you can get in touch with us. The first place we want to point you to is bit.ly/KCTBC. That's all caps, KCTBC. And that's going to take you to the Trailblazer Community Groups page. And from there, you'll be able to access all 5 of these groups, sign up for those groups if you'd like, and then you'll receive email notifications as new events get published, as registration goes live for those events. So if you want to know when the next event is happening in any of these groups, it's bit.ly/KCTBC, all caps, if you want to join. We have this meeting today for the user group. We call it the user group. For a while, it was the admin group. For a while, it was just the Kansas City group. This group is the user group. That's where you are right now. And our next meeting is going to be September 29th, other admin tools, and sponsored by DataParent. And then November 9th, Salesforce Data Management with Capstorm. So definitely be on the lookout for registration. Emails, again, if you're not already at bit.ly/KCTBC and signed up to get those emails, make sure you do that. It's the easiest and best way to get notified about the upcoming events. Also, Dale and I are always looking for speakers who want to talk about topics that you're passionate about. So if there's something that you've been itching to share with a team, something really cool that you just built that you want to brag about, or a problem that you've been running into and you just scratched that itch and solved it and want to share your success with the world so that we don't have to hit our heads against the same wall, please don't hesitate to reach out via the speaker interest form. We are always looking for folks who want to jump up here so you don't have to listen to Dale and I ramble for a bunch of time before we get to our special guest. So I will make sure that the speaker interest form is once again reposted to the community group. If you don't have it already, this deck will also get posted, and so you'll be able to access it within the deck as well. Any updates on the call? So I mentioned this is the user group. We have other groups that are available at bit.ly/KCTBC. And I wanted to open up the floor if there's anybody out there who wants to share what's coming up with any of these groups. I'd love to hear it. Going once? Going twice? Okay, well, as I mentioned, bit.ly/KCTBC, sign up for those groups and make sure that you're getting those notifications. And then even if we don't have anything to share on one of these user group calls, you'll be the first to know when those events get posted. Any other user group leaders from outside the KC Metro? I know sometimes we get folks from Iowa or from Nebraska or elsewhere. So any user group leaders that want to out themselves and say hi? Any attendees from outside of KC at all? I was talking with Mackenzie beforehand. I think usually most of our attendees are in the Metro, but anybody attending from outside of KC that wants to share?
Wichita, Kansas.
Oh, hi, Erin. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm joining from Wichita, Kansas.
Awesome. Hey, that's outside the Metro. Welcome. I see a hand raised too. Chat Doyer.
Yeah, I'm in the DC area. So.
Oh, awesome. Great. I think you might, well, I was going to say you might be our farthest, but then Chelsea in the chat said she's from Toronto, Canada, and we've got Sam from North Carolina. So we've got folks from all over today. Tampa, Lori, welcome. I wish I was in Tampa instead of in KC. So DC, Toronto, North Carolina, Tampa. Hi, Lori. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Atlanta. Wow. All right. I didn't realize we were going to have such a wide-ranging audience today. I'm excited about that. Thanks for sharing it and volunteering that information, both in the chat and on video. Aweswant speaking of things happening outside the metro, we do want to highlight, oh, hi, Tiffany from Chicago. Welcome. Do want to highlight that the Manhattan user group is officially live and active. So we have a meeting coming up.
My time.
What's that?
Sorry, need to mute myself.
No worries. So we've got a Manhattan user group coming up on 8/25, and there is a community group, both on the trailblazercommunitygroups.com site, and then also there's a success community group, formerly known as, well, I think formerly known as Success Community, now Trailblazer Community Group as well, for the admin group for Manhattan. So if you're in that neck of the woods, or you just want another virtual session to attend, you can go sign up on August 25th and attend, or sign up for the August 25th session. We love our Manhattan, love all our folks from Kansas. So go check them out. Putting out great content. Do we have any Salesforce employees on the call? Dale, let's start. Every meeting, he gets this spreadsheet together of all his Salesforce contacts that he knows, and he sends it out, and he invites folks to the call. I don't know if we, I mean, I think it's pretty rare we actually get any who are willing to fess up to it, but any Salesforce employees who want to share? Ooh, all right. Guess not. No worries. One of these days, Dale, we'll get them. Okay, so I'm guessing with the folks from sort of all around the country, we've got a healthy number of first-time attendees. If you're a first-time attendee, pop off in the chat. Let us know. We love our first-time attendees. You know, something that's really important to us, Dale and I, and really the Trailblazer community at large, is we want to be welcoming, right? We were all first-time attendees at one point. And we want to make this a space that is welcoming, that can hopefully help you grow in your Salesforce knowledge, but just as importantly, make a strong connection with somebody in the community. I know it's a little harder maybe virtually, but don't hesitate to use that little drop down in the Zoom chat and ping at each other if you want to while the session's going on. That community building, you know, is just as an important part of the session as the content itself. So to reach out to each other and not just us during this call. Any new roles that people have taken on that they want to share? We love this celebration slide. It's our favorite slide. Anybody start something new since the last time we were together?
I have. This is Brenna. I actually, since the last time I was here, I'm 2 jobs deep, but
Wow.
I'm at Lev now, and I actually am a manager of solution architects. So
fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah. Oh, and I also got the Health Cloud partner, whatever certification. It was real hard.
That sounds really hard.
Yeah, I don't recommend it.
No
I don't recommend it in its beta form, I would say, maybe later.
Fair enough. I helped with the beta on the FSC Super Badge, and I feel like I know what you went through. The beta for sure.
Yeah, I want to keep that cert forever because I don't want to ever have to take it again.
Yes, exactly. Well, congratulations on both those fronts.
Thank you.
I see a couple of first-time attendees in the chat. Love that. Congrats to Rodney and to Tiffany and to Sam. Sam just passed the SCA. You want to talk a little bit about that, Sam, if you're willing to jump in? Oh, that's okay. No worries. Not at all. Happy to have you here, and congrats on that as well. The flip side of the roles thing, right? Like some people started new roles. Anybody have jobs? Anybody looking for people Again, this is part of that community building. We want to open the floor if folks are looking for admins, looking for developers. Share that here, and if you have a link that you can put in the chat, even better, so that folks can reach out if they're interested. Anybody want to share a role?
Hey, Jeff,
Hey.
it's Corinne.
Oh, go ahead, Corinne, and then we'll do Cole.
Yeah, so sorry. C2FO is looking for a Salesforce developer, so I'll post the link in the chat here, but if anyone's interested, let me know.
Awesome. Thanks, Corinne.
Thank you.
Cole, what do you got?
Hey, Jeff. It's been a while, so happy to jump on.
Yeah.
I don't have any concrete roles right now, but the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City is growing their Salesforce platform. So we will likely have some openings soon. We just filled one for a marketing cloud Salesforce admin. So there are plenty of opportunities the more that we grow. So just wanted to say, be on the lookout. I will keep spreading those openings when they come available in the Slack channel, in the user group page, everywhere I can, so we can get more local Kansas City talent on board at the Fed. So yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Cole. Hey, that brings up a really interesting point. And I don't know if Mackenzie's, I don't want to throw her under the bus if she's not going to talk about this, but I know I've talked about it in the past when it comes to certifications in specialty areas, right? I love hearing Brenna talk about the Health Cloud certification. I love hearing Cole talk about Marketing Cloud. One of the things that I've talked about, right, is general admin certs are great and important, foundational, right? But there's such a wide variety of certifications and specialties in the Salesforce ecosystem. And I highly encourage you to sort of identify, if you can, where the gaps are in your market. We've talked on this call before when I talked about salary survey stuff, that there weren't, at least not a lot of people engaging that have Marketing Cloud expertise. And so, to hear, Cole, that you just filled the position for Marketing Cloud person, love that. I hope that encourages folks to look at Marketing Cloud, look at Financial Services Cloud, look at the Health Cloud, find those niche areas where companies are going to be building out those platforms or those additions to the platform as those sort of industry vertical or specialty tools like Marketing Cloud or Experience Cloud become a little more mainstream. And so if you can you can really set yourself up for success by having one of those certifications in your pocket, or at least be on the way toward getting that certification. Awesome. I'm loving these posts in the chat. Don't hesitate to look in the chat, folks. A lot of great stuff coming in for careers, for some different links, so check that out. And big congrats to Chad for passing the cert test. So I love that the Dev Cert 1 is, not easy, especially for folks who maybe haven't been much of a developer before, maybe starting development on the Salesforce platform. So kudos for that. And Tiffany, you're in a good place if you're looking for new opportunities. So appreciate your engagement, and I love that you're here. And maybe there's some opportunities for you here in Kansas City. Awesome. I do want to call this out. Dale highlighted this, I think, last time, but I do want to call out that second webcam requirement for certifications is, very much up in the air. It might come back at any moment. So if you've been thinking about doing a cert and you don't want to mess around with that second webcam and you want to do that cert virtually, schedule it sooner rather than later, because you never know when that second cam is going to come back. You might have to go into a center, or, I've done crazy things with stacks of books and stuff to get that second webcam going. So just keep that in mind and try to get those certs knocked out sooner rather than later. This page is very busy and works much better as a link or resource later. But of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't call out MVP office hours. Our own Dale Diegler will be there. So that is the first and third Friday of every month. Typically, check out mvpofficehours.info for more. The registration link is up for the Friday 8:20 call. So definitely check that out. Y'all know how to find Salesforce events, so I'm not going to spend much time on that. Although if you are interested in doing Dreamforce in person somewhere, definitely be hitting up your account executive so that you're first on the list to know when that registration is going to be open. As you know, it's going to be really limited this year if you want to go in person, although there are going to be a couple of sort of different campuses across the nation that you can attend. The attendance at each sort of campus is going to be pretty limited, so definitely be engaged pretty heavily with your AD and make sure they know you want to go. I'm going to skip some of these other things, but do check out the certification days and the certification prep weeks. If you're interested in getting certified or adding a cert to your stack, and you are not yet sort of on this blog or following Danielle on the success community, I highly recommend it. You know, not every post is going to align with your goals, right? But you want to stay plugged in so that way you can jump into those cert days or those cert prep weeks when they're applicable to you. So please make sure that you're following those folks if a cert is in your horizon or if you think it might be. And then I'm really passionate about Trailblazer mentorship. Great, really important. If you are somebody who is interested in taking on a mentor, I highly recommend that. They're always looking for, they have a lot of folks who are looking for mentors, but maybe not as many mentors available. So we want everyone to have a great experience. Check out the mentorship program if that's something you're interested in. I haven't done it yet. I'm you know, sort of do as I say, not as I do. I need to volunteer as well. And then idea exchange prioritization. Please, please, please be sure that you are plugged into the prioritization schedule. You know, once it's live, you only get 2 weeks to go do the prioritization. And it is so important that they are hearing from us, not just us admins developers, but us here in Kansas City, right, in the Midwest. So be sure to make your voice heard and stay on top of the prioritization windows and vote for those items that you're interested in. Okay. I mentioned certification days. Dale specifically wanted to highlight that the certification day webinars are live, and there's one coming up really soon. So again, just reiterating, make sure that if you want to take a cert, you're plugged into these resources. We will, as always, post this in the community, so you'll have access to these links once we post this deck a little later today. Winter 22 release. I can't believe it's time, as Jacinta says, it's hard to believe, but it's already time to start thinking about winter. The winter release is coming sooner than you think, so make sure that you understand what your release preview schedule looks like for your instance, and you're planning out your sandbox refreshes accordingly. Also, do the pre-release if you can to get access to some of the fun features. I always love participating in the scavenger hunt if I get an opportunity. So check that out. You can check out the post and the Release Readiness Trailblazers group, formerly known as Success Group. If you're not plugged into that already, even if you're not able or interested in going in and accessing it right away and sort of doing the scavenger hunt yourself, there's a lot of people who love doing that and are constantly pulling out the newest, latest, and greatest stuff that you might not see otherwise until a formal release notes very soon to the release. So check that out. Releases are like Christmas, right? So I love knowing what I'm going to get sooner rather than later. Certification maintenance, another hot topic, really important for the community. We'd be remiss if we didn't bring it up. So the current certification maintenance schedule is shown on the screen here. I don't know that we have a lot of Heroku architecture designers on the call necessarily, but definitely calling out the Winter 21 Platform App Builder and Platform Dev 1 maintenance modules that are due by December, and then we sort of get back on track with our admin stuff in April 2022. So if you have a cert and you haven't done your maintenance, put it on the calendar, make sure it happens. As Brenna says, you don't want to have to retake that test once you do it. So just be really aware of that. You should be getting emails from Trailhead about your certification, your specific certification requirements. And if you're not, definitely reach out to the Success team and make sure that you're set up to receive those emails. How I keep track of my certs, what I need to do when. Okay, that's too much of me monologuing at you, but I appreciate you going along on that journey with me. And thanks to everybody who participated in the chat and on the call. Thank you for being here. I'm really, really excited about this session today. We have all gone through something transformative in the last 18 months, and it has changed us personally, and it has definitely changed us professionally. I think in our industry in particular, I have heard so many stories from folks who have changed jobs, are looking to change jobs, are sort of reevaluating their work-life balance and their career as we look at return to work and what that means for folks like us who just succeeded in our jobs over the past 18 months virtually. So Mackenzie is here, and Mackenzie is going to talk about that changing landscape. She's got some really interesting factoids that she's going to share, and just sort of hopefully engage us in some dialogue about what our return to work has looked like, what our changing work landscape has looked like. So without further ado, please welcome Mackennzie Bodenhamer. And Mackenzie, I'm hopefully going to let you start sharing. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let you take over.
Awesome. Well, I am Mackennzie Bodenhamer. I'm with Parker and Lynch Technology. We are a recruiting agency. Like it sounds, I specialize in recruiting within technology. So I am not a jack of all trades recruiter. I have only recruited within tech for my whole career up to this point. I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. How does that show up for you guys? Good.
Looks great.
Okay, perfect. So I, like Jeff mentioned, obviously this last year has just brought so many changes personally, professionally, and I think more and more people, myself included, are starting to realize that there isn't so much of a need to have such a distinct personal and professional life, just as far as your day-to-day goes. So remote work has obviously been a huge increase in the last year and a half. In my presentation, I want to talk about the changing landscape, how it could potentially affect your job, how it might affect us in the future from an economic standpoint, how it opens up opportunities for you. And then I also want to talk, even starting off, just about Salesforce specifically and some data across both regionally and nationally, salary averages. My goal in this presentation is to inform everyone about what the job market looks like and kind of teach you, give you some edge to understand how to be, one, a competitive candidate, and two, optimistic about your opportunities. Last year, it doesn't even need to be said that it was really tough. As a recruiter, I can tell you that it was a really bad year to be a recruiter. There was not a lot going on, not a lot of companies hiring, while a lot of people, like Jeff mentioned, were finding reasons to move positions. Over, I would say, the last year, I've spoken to a lot of people who feel stuck and discouraged, that were laid off, that couldn't find a new position, didn't feel like there was anything out there. I understand the job market just felt bleak for a long time, but my goal today is to introduce some optimism, hopefully, for those of you who are potentially looking for a position. I genuinely believe this could be one of the best times ever to be on the job market, just from what I'm seeing. So for some context around my position, I'm located in Kansas City. Historically, my job would have been based in Kansas City. All of my clients would be here. All of my candidates would be here. I'd be geographically based in Kansas City. While that's still true, my company has restructured to support remote recruiting. It's changed the day-to-day of how I do my job. Used to go in the office all day, every day. Now I work fully remote. That's changed a lot of things for me, one, but it's also changed a lot of things for my clients and the candidates I work with. I now have clients in Denver, in Nashville, in Houston, and Austin, that I never would have experienced that before. So hopefully it gives you a little bit of encouragement that there are opportunities out there outside of your geolocation. And also just that what used to be true about looking for a job is probably just not true anymore. There's just so much that's changed. So with that, I'll get started. I am going to try to keep it pretty short and sweet. Please ask me questions if you have any. And then I will definitely have some questions for you guys as we go as well. So here's some Salesforce fun facts. These come from Career Builder, where I got a lot of information for this. So Career Builder, supply and demand, does a really good job storing data, both regionally, nationally. You can find so much here. But the average Salesforce candidate has a bachelor's degree and about 6 to 10 years of experience. In these next slides, I'm going to go into some of the salary averages and medians for basically level of experience you're at. So just keep in mind that the average candidate that's going to be at the midpoint of most of these numbers sits at about 6 to 10 years of experience and has a bachelor's degree as their highest level of education. In the last year, there were 293,136 job postings referencing Salesforce, but less than 30,000 candidate resumes. And of course, these job postings are referencing things that may or may not have been shared multiple times in multiple places. So this is probably a larger value than what the actual number of job openings was. But whichever way you shake it, that is a huge gap between the number of candidates that are out there seeking Salesforce opportunities and the number of opportunities that are out there. And all of this data is just within the last 12 months. So this is between June of last year and May of this year. So I got as much recent data as I could. So this should encourage you that if you are within the Salesforce industry on the tech side, that this is a good time to be looking for a position. It's a lucrative skill set that companies really desire, and there are more opportunities than there are candidates. So if you have considered looking for a new position, this could be a really good time.
Hey, Mackenzie, you may not know this, and that's okay, but
Yes.
when it says referencing Salesforce, do you know if that is only within, the title, only within the description? Is that across the board? I think we've all experienced, right, where especially a lot of companies who are new with Salesforce don't necessarily know what they're asking for.
Right.
And so I just wanted to know if you had any color you could share about what referencing Salesforce entails.
Yeah, so my impression is that referencing Salesforce is either in the title or in the requirements. So they're looking for someone who has experience or can sit in a job title. Some of those job titles that I saw, some of the top job titles within Salesforce were Salesforce developer, Salesforce administrator, systems manager, systems administrator. There were positions, there was a huge chunk of positions that were application developers and Java developers that still needed that specialization within Salesforce. So kind of all encompassing. That's a good question though. And I should clarify that this presentation within, especially this first half when I'm referencing Salesforce or candidates or positions, looking at people who have Salesforce within their skill set listed on their resume and jobs that have it either within the title or is a qualification. And then the next point was that 71% of Salesforce candidates are male and about 29% are female. In tech as a whole, this number is pretty similar. I've seen between 75 to 80% of men fill the tech industry just on a general standpoint. So Salesforce is a little bit ahead of closing that gap, but still I would say have a long way to go. I always get discouraged when I see things like that, but one really positive outcome is that companies right now are also, as we know, really pushing to have a diverse workforce, and they're really valuing diversity in their hiring processes as well. And I'm seeing that for my clients that, of course, they're going to hire the right person for the right job, but it's a huge plus if that person's a woman within these industries. So, it's always sad to see those numbers, but on the plus side of that, if you are a woman within tech, especially within Salesforce, you're at a huge advantage going and finding these positions because you have a spot to fill in these roles, and companies want you to fill them. So hope that's an encouragement, even though it's kind of sad to see how much of just a huge gap there is, especially within tech, which is expected. But I see that too on a day-to-day standpoint. So,
Mackenzie, I would say, at least with our last salary survey, that's really right in line
Is
with
it?
what we're seeing in our specific metro. Yeah,
awesome.
unfortunately. And I think I want to just piggyback on that and say, you know, the numbers in terms of who is in the roles are what they are, right? And to your point, the companies that are hiring are putting an emphasis on diversity. I think what's really important for me to communicate in this is, and part of why we wanted to have you on, is to talk about these salaries, because in our salary survey, we also saw not just the disparity in who's in the role, but how much people are getting paid for those roles.
Really?
Right? And so I think more than ever, it's important as companies are looking maybe to hire more women, hire a more diverse workforce, that those women candidates are ready to fight for the salaries that they know they deserve, and they can do that best when they're armed with data, right? So I think having you on to talk about what their expectations should be of salaries is really important, especially right now when you're going to have a lot of labor movement, and acknowledging that the salary ranges that you're seeing are probably even a little on the low side, because it's historical looking at 2020, and we're going to have way more labor movement in the next 6 months than we did in the last 18, right?
I would think so, for sure. And I'm glad you made that point too, because that's something that I really want to focus on in this presentation. I want to go back here. Actually brings me to this slide, which is, this is national medians. So this is across the United States. So the median candidate with 1 to 2 years of experience is starting around $80,000 in a Salesforce focused role. I wanted to present this information, and I'm going to have more that I break down by city and location and region even. But it's important to know, you need to understand what the competition in the market looks like, because I do think folks undervalue themselves, especially coming out of this pandemic. I have met with just countless people who have either lost jobs or just have felt like their career path was so badly impacted by the pandemic. They're willing to take a salary cut of 20, 30, even 40% sometimes, just in hopes of getting back into the job market. I have been trying to discourage people as much as I can from doing that. There is no reason to take a huge step back because of, this disaster, especially because of how much we've seen the hiring trends pick up. I quite honestly have never in my career so far seen so many companies hiring so desperately all at once. So I'm trying to encourage folks, understand where your value is within the market, within context of your position, your location, and your range of experience. And don't falter on what you're worth, because there are companies that are out there that are investing in tech, in Salesforce, that are going to find the value that you bring to the table. So I want to present as much data as possible to show you guys where you should be shooting for in these, positions, and in just kind of an uncharted workforce territory. So this is all national. I'm going to move forward into some specific locations. So I have 3 slides here, starting with Midwestern cities, and then I'm going to move into West and East Coast to show just some of the distribution differences on starting salaries, especially, and even just, salaries in general from location to location. And keep in mind, like I said, these mid-range salaries here are the average candidate of about 6 to 10 years of experience in a bachelor's degree. So that gives you kind of an idea of where that's sitting. So like here in Kansas City, we actually seem to have pretty low averages starting off. All of these numbers come from 50-mile radius of this metro area. And I will, obviously this is being recorded, and then if I can, I'll upload this file. So if you guys want to keep this and look back at it, I think it's important to see these specific locations too, just because, as I'm going to go into later in the presentation, there's so many remote opportunities that you're not confined to your city anymore. But that means when you're applying for other positions and interviewing for positions outside of your metro area, you still want to understand what those ranges look like. One, so that if you need to, raise the range that you're looking at, to be in line, because there's no reason that you should take a position for 20 grand less than what it's worth to this company just because you live in a different location. On top of that, you know, if you're looking in a city like, let's see, New York City obviously is pretty expensive. If you're living in New York City, interviewing for a position in Kansas City, you need to understand what your competition salaries look like too, so that you can, you know, depending on the variables that you're using for this interview process, why you're pursuing this role, can make yourself a more competitive candidate in line with what they're looking at too. So I just think it's important to be informed about what others around you are looking for in these positions. So moving on, and then
clarification questions on
Yes.
these. So first, the breakdown between the low, middle, high. Can you give us a sense of experience range for each of those?
yes, so the middle range is between 6 and 10 years of experience. The top
Okay.
range tends to be, if I understand correctly, over 10 years, and then the bottom range is under 3.
Under 3. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then the other question is, you know, all of us on this call have very different roles, right?
Okay.
And there's a lot of different types of hats you can wear within the Salesforce ecosystem. Does this salary information sort of take all of those roles and lump them all together? So this is admins, developers, business analysts, the whole shebang. If it
Yes.
mentions Salesforce, it's in this bucket.
Yes, and I do have the ability to, if it's interesting for you guys, even after this call, of pulling some of that more specific information. I can look at Salesforce developers or Salesforce administrators, and I can break that down by city as well. So if that's something you're interested in seeing by job title, or even within, you know, less specific than that, someone that's specifically within tech or on the marketing piece, I can help narrow down to find some of those averages
Oh,
too.
no, that was
Yeah, I think
But
that would be
yes.
valuable. You know, each of us are sort of going on our own career journey, right? And
Right.
being armed with not only, okay, where I'm at now, what should I be making? What should I be asking for, right? But
Totally.
if I'm thinking about moving into the developer path, or if I'm thinking about moving into a marketing role, you know, that's probably something I'm not as familiar with, so I might not know what to ask for, or I might not know what level of experience I need to get to be able to ask for,
Right.
or that I'm seeing, right? So I think that would be really cool.
Awesome. Another thing I'll do is my company, Parker and Lynch, or Adecco Group, is the larger umbrella company that I work for. They're very data oriented and data forward. They present guides every few quarters to tell us where salary averages are at on a national standpoint by job title. So I can even break down, I'll send the guide that shares even just systems administrators, business analysts, software developers, and I can show the data that we've put together for those breakdowns from a national perspective too. So you can see those both from a Salesforce perspective and just the general skill set that you're pursuing, job title you're looking at too.
Awesome, that'd be great, thanks.
So for sure. Okay, and then see West Coast cities salary ranges as well. See, obviously West Coast, we see way higher starting salaries. If you remember in the Midwest, it was looking more from the 85 to 92 range. Here, 110 to 110, 112 range for starting within Salesforce. One point to make here is that most of our big tech and huge commerce is coming out of our coastal cities. We're seeing huge numbers of hiring both within Salesforce and just within IT in general coming out of these cities here, and obviously our East Coast too. You also see the salary ranges much higher than what we look at in the Midwest. Well, what we're also seeing is these companies are also starting to hire remotely. Big tech has been one of the leaders in remote work. So now you have these companies that have much higher salary averages than what one would expect to see within the Midwest that are considering candidates from the Midwest that are living in places with lower cost of living, and lower salary ranges. And while this is awesome for us, I think that we'd be remiss to not look at some of the long-term impacts that it could possibly have. There are just, in my opinion, a lot of things that can change about just the economic standing and differences and even distribution around the regions in the country that I think that this remote trend is probably going to change. One more important note before I kind of go off on a tangent on that. Here are the top 5 cities that hired in Salesforce in the last year, and then the top 5 companies that hired in Salesforce in the last year. So these are the companies in the cities that had the most postings out for Salesforce from last June to this May. So if you're looking for Salesforce positions, you might want to make note of some of these and check them out. So back to kind of the long-term impact of just the changing landscape within our workforce. Like I said, many companies and for the most part, individuals are moving to the Midwest where there is a lower cost of living, less restrictions. However, most of these big tech companies are still located on the coasts where the cost of living is different. The pay ranges are much higher. And I think that this is going to eventually potentially create just a skewed distribution of what our economic expectations are in different parts of the country. There's probably going to be some good things that come with that. And I think that there are going to be some really challenging things that come with that, especially for smaller businesses within the Midwest. It's going to be hard to retain talent if they're also competing with companies like Twitter and Facebook and Google and, you know, all of those for folks that didn't used to have access to those positions or those types of salaries. I also think that with remote work, people aren't tied to their geolocation anymore. So obviously, I'm sure a lot of you, and I would love for you to tell me in the chat too, if you're working remotely and if you're working remotely for a company that is located in your city. Because what's happening is now folks are, you know, more or less have the freedom to live wherever they want. They're going to more often than not choose places that are more affordable to live. And if they're taking those West Coast salaries with them to Idaho, it's going to really create challenges for other companies in Idaho that are trying to keep up with that. So starting to see that on a very small scale right now, but I do expect that to be something that changes a lot. And then also disproportion between commerce and residential civilians. So there's going to become cities where there's more people living there than people actually working there. And again, hard to say what kind of economic impacts that's going to have, but we can be sure that they'll happen.
That's a really interesting point. You know, I think the message to take away, there's 2 messages, right? If you're on the labor side of this equation, right? And Mackenzie, you and I talked about this in one of our sort of pre-meeting calls. You know, it's a really interesting time to be looking for a Salesforce salary, right? If you live in Kansas City and your average, you know, salary for an admin with 6 to 10 years experience is $100,000, but you can work for a company that's based out of New York where that number is, let's say, $140,000. Well, you could take that salary, you can take that job for $120,000, right? $20,000 more than you could make from a competitor in Kansas City. The company is going to want to hire you because they're still saving $20,000 against the employee that they would normally have had to hire from New York. And so it's a win-win for the coastal company and for the Midwestern labor, right? Mm-hmm. But I couldn't agree with you more. If you're on the other side of that equation, if you are the Midwestern company and you're trying to attract and retain top talent, all of a sudden you have to compete with salaries nationally in cities like New York, Chicago, LA, Seattle, right? And you're going to start to bleed talent very quickly. Yes. If you're not able to keep up with the level of salaries that are being offered by the coastal cities. And so if you're a person who does hiring at your company, or if you're a person who has, you know, the line to people who make those decisions and budget for your teams, I think this is something you really need to think about. You know, whether it's actual dollars in salaries or coming up with some benefits package or being really thoughtful about how you think about return to work. If I work at Academy Bank here. I am in the office right now. I worked from home for 14 months or so straight. I'm not loving being back in the office, right? And so it might be really important to me to work from home. And if my company isn't willing to negotiate on that, right, or have a conversation about that, then that might inspire me to look elsewhere. But for what it's worth, this is being recorded. I'm not looking for jobs. But I do just want to say, like, if you're in that position at your company, you have to think long and hard about who your competition is now for that labor. And you have to be really smart about how you approach both your long-term employees, right, who might get the itch to move in this hot labor market, or might be headhunted by somebody like Mackenzie on LinkedIn, or the new talent that you're trying to attract, right? I'm not competing with the rest of the banks in Kansas City. I'm competing with the rest of the banks in Kansas City and every large national bank that's based in New York and Austin and fill in the blank, right? So it's going to be much more difficult for companies that are based in the Midwest to attract and retain top talent. And the sooner you can acknowledge that and get ahead of that as a Midwestern hirer, the better, because otherwise all of us on this call are going to start switching to remote employees that are outside of the metro. That's going to be really tough for the metro.
You are not wrong. We found, my company put out a stat that I believe they said over 56% of people are going to start looking for a new position actively if their company forces them to return to work full time. So as Midwest companies, we have to consider, like you said, what's going to be competitive for folks in the job market. You're not going to be able to match the salaries on the West Coast. So what can you offer? What can you offer your employees? People want the flexibility to be remote. People often are not even asking for the opportunity to be fully remote. They just want the flexibility to continue to be trusted to do their jobs the way they've been doing them for the last, like you said, 14 months. I've been seeing a lot of companies here in the Midwest, which I have lived in the Midwest my whole life. I love it. I do see a lot of challenges coming for companies here because of one, lack of funds to compete with coastal companies. Two, old school mentalities. There's so many companies here that from a culture perspective want to stay in a 9-to-5, expect to have butts and desks, that want folks that are on site all the time, every day, because they think that's what's best for their workforce and their company. And while that might be true, in some ways, obviously there's more collaboration that goes on when you're on site. Your employees are going to leave. And so I've been really urging and trying to be transparent with my clients that if you want to have a position on site full time, you're going to need to find other allowances, other things to entice people to do that, because they have options now. And I think that many companies here are not realizing really the bind that they're putting themselves in by not allowing remote work based on what we're seeing in the national marketplace. So that brings us to another reason to let people work remotely, remote savings. Companies can save $11,000 per year per remote employee, which seems like a ton of money. Obviously, lower overhead for office space, increased productivity, reduced absenteeism, and less turnover, which for me, I'm sure a lot of you that are working remotely kind of have this experience. I haven't taken a sick day. I don't need them. If I'm not feeling, 100%, I take my laptop to the couch with me and just do what I feel like doing that day, keep up. I'm able to travel. So when I'm out of town, I don't feel obligated to, take time off all the time. If I'm able to find the time to be in front of my computer. So you'll find that your employees are going to be more engaged more of the time because they don't have the requirement to be on site. Another note that I thought was interesting that I'll show you a stat here in a minute, but the amount of people working in hybrid roles is really small. Most folks are working fully remotely or completely in office. And my belief is that because companies are not saving money on hybrid roles. It's probably one of the least cost efficient options because you're paying for both your employee to be functional remotely while also providing place for them to come into the office. So that's just one interesting note that I think should be taken into consideration. And then for the individual, also saves money. And I know we would all say time. You're not paying for gas, repairs to your car, your coffees and lunches out, in your wardrobe. Even that's one thing that I have really enjoyed. I spend most of my money on fun clothes instead of stuff to wear to the office. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that too. Okay, and then another note that this should also, if you do love remote work, make you feel pretty optimistic. It is here to stay. So we have not seen a significant decrease in remote work this year than from in the midst of just the depths of the pandemic in 2020. It has been pretty consistent. I think we all expected that it was an emergency response that would be short-lived and then we would be back to our normal lives. Nothing suggests that that is happening. People realize and companies realize that their employees are able to functionally and effectively work remotely and that it's what they want. And it's not really, we're not seeing trends that places are going back into the office. This trend does include hybrid and remote work. So anyone that's going into the office a couple of days a week and is still working remotely was included. In the 73% working fully remotely, 13% in a hybrid role, and then 14% in the office full time. And this is just for professionals that are in the technology industry specifically that are within tech. But I thought those numbers were pretty astounding. That is a huge number of people that are working fully remotely. So as a candidate, if you're out in the job market, that should encourage you to know that if you are looking for remote opportunities, you can find them. And if you are an employer, it should show you that your employees are going to be out there looking for remote opportunities and that they're going to find them. So now I want to talk about pros and cons of remote work. There's a lot of things that you have to consider. It's not a one size fits all. It's not something that's right for everybody. And it's certainly not something that's right for every company, especially a full-time way. But in this presentation, I'm trying to do my best to present as many variables as possible so that you can find the balance of what works for you, works for your employees as well. Part of my goal as a recruiter, obviously my job is to find people jobs. I also am a consultant to my clients in the companies that I work with, helping them retain the talent that I help them find, because that's part of the battle. It's one of the hugest pieces of the battle right now. Like we said, 56% of people looking for jobs if they have to go back into the office. And that hurts. That's a huge expense to companies that they've invested in onboarding and training employees. All that said, obviously we know that remote work gives us more flexibility to balance family, other responsibilities from an individual standpoint, just gives us more flexibility to not have to have such a strict, just division between our personal life and our professional life. Obviously get more autonomy. I know not everyone, but I am definitely one that does not love being micromanaged. And I love my remote work that I run my day. I'm responsible for my piece of the puzzle. I know a lot of other people have really enjoyed that piece as well. Also just gives me more job satisfaction to know that I'm driving the success that I see every day. And I know that a lot of other people probably feel that way when they are fully responsible for their desk without having anyone physically breathing over their shoulder all the time. Also gives the ability to relocate or travel, not being tied to a geographic location. If my husband gets an awesome job somewhere, we can pick up and go and be excited about somewhere new. Get the opportunity to go visit family without taking a bunch of time off. And that's positive for my company as well, because I'm taking less PTO and personal time. Huge save on money. I know we talked about this, and a huge save on time. I mean, if you look at the amount of time that we would spend commuting, even getting ready for work in the mornings, if we're being honest, that doesn't look the same as it did 2 years ago. Then cons, obviously, there's things about remote work. While I encourage it because I think it's an unavoidable just situation that we're in, and I want to teach my clients how to be the most effective, it's not always awesome. There's things that are detrimental to your team as well as your learning abilities from being a remote employee. So obviously less opportunities to collaborate with your team, and difficult to train and integrate new employees. I started with Parker and Lynch in September. I started fully remotely. And it was, to be quite honest, a challenge. You know, I love what I do. I love my company. I had been a recruiter before, so I knew the ropes. But joining a company, trying to learn remotely, trying to be trained remotely, trying to understand individual company processes remotely, it's challenging, it's frustrating, and it takes longer. There's no one to turn around to ask your questions to. You can't just flag someone down walking by you. It takes a lot of direct effort to get integrated into a team and in a job when you're starting remotely. And that's just one detriment. There's also less resources available to you, that when you're in the office, you have basically anything that the company owns at your fingertips: printers, extra monitors, troubleshooting abilities even, are all there. And when you're at home, you don't have as much of those things available to you. And then isolation, it's, you know, everyone has a different experience, but if your workplace is somewhere that you got a lot of face time and social time, it can be really hard to transition away from that in your day-to-day life. It can be a lot harder to connect with people. I know that there's obviously been a large uptake in depression, and I believe that isolation from people, both professionally and personally, has been a huge impact there. And then less face time with management. So if you're someone that's really seeking ability to move up through a company and quick promotions, not that they won't happen, because I definitely know people that have been in roles where they were promoted and were remote the entire time, but it definitely puts you at a disadvantage to be able to make those connections and show someone what you're putting in every second of every day. There's just not as much visibility working remotely. And depending on where you fit in the puzzle and what your end goals are, that could be great for you or not. So obviously there's just a lot of variables working remotely, things that every person needs to take into consideration. And employers too, you know, I understand it's not feasible for every employer to say, let's go fully remote, but understanding that people are going to be looking for opportunities for that flexibility, even if it's 2 days a week elsewhere. I hope that I showed you that the job market is opening up tremendously, especially for all of you that are in Salesforce. There is such a desire and such a need to hire Salesforce professionals, not just in Kansas City, but, you know, from a national perspective. So if you're an employer, you should give your employees opportunities to work remotely. If you're an employee that's not extremely comfortable or excited about your prospects right now, this is a really good time to look for a new role. I would love to hear your feedback on remote work too. 85% of people in the technology industry say that they think they can do this effectively. And I would like to know if you guys think the same. So feel free to, you know, you can tell me, you can put it in the chat if you want. Would love to see what you guys think about remote work. But I hope this presentation was encouraging as well, that there are opportunities out there and that you are not stuck the way that you probably felt you were a year ago.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Hey, I want to call out a couple of people who put some things in the chat. So Joanne,
Yes,
talk a little bit about your remote position in the chat. Do you feel comfortable sort of expounding on that a little further live and sharing a little bit of that experience?
Sure. So I was hired with this company in January, and the previous person was 100% remote. They actually have a fair amount of people who aren't in like operational roles working remotely. So I have dual reporting. I report to the chief technology officer, but the person who actually hired me is the SVP of marketing, and I have a lot of previous marketing experience. So I agreed to run their Salesforce platform, and I do marketing analytics for them on the side as well. And it's great. I love it. I don't know if I go back to a non-remote role at this point. I can you know, be social in my personal life. I think it's great. And the manager I have is very experienced and is not a micromanager. And I do Zooms. We have people in Singapore. I sent a note today to a newer gal in Singapore. I do a ton of Zoom. And you just have to be responsive. Do you know what I mean? And we have a smaller group, so it's very easy for me to be responsive. I do a lot of training, a lot of video training. I love it. I think it's great.
What for you is the best part of working remotely? What are the things that make it impossible to give up?
Well, and I work Eastern hours. I don't have to, but since they're on Eastern hours, I just do it to sort of align with them. But
Okay.
Obviously the no commute is great. Like sometimes depending on who's on the Zoom, I'll dress differently, but you do have a ton of flexibility. And then just like, and my boss doesn't care, but like, so if my dogs need to go for a 10-minute walk, instead of me going down to the break room and chitter chattering with folks while over a cup of coffee, I'm like taking my dogs for a walk or putting in a load of laundry. And that kind of
Mhm.
stuff is like really very valuable to me,
Oh
honestly.
yeah.
Mhm.
Do you have a biggest challenge working remotely? Sorry to put you on the spot again.
I don't really find a challenge. I mean, we have people in Australia and Singapore and all over the place. So you do need to be a little bit flexible with time zones. But my boss is great. If I need to flex hours, I can flex hours. I think whenever you go into a new company, you have to learn, where things are located. And I feel fortunate that the company I work for has been very, just very welcoming and helpful in that perspective. But there's a learning curve no matter how great the organization is. And it is a little more challenging remotely.
Mhm.
And I think, you just have to be flexible. You know what I mean? You have to be flexible
Absolutely.
with the company as they're being flexible with you. But I think it's a win-win for companies and employees. I really do.
Awesome.
That's great feedback. And Sam, you were asking in the chat about, how do hybrid, roles play into the Salesforce ecosystem? I think Joanne's a perfect example, right? Yes, she has Salesforce experience, but clearly, I mean, she's dual reporting, right? So the thing that was exciting to that company about Joanne was, oh yeah, she knows about Salesforce, but she also has all this marketing experience too, right? And I think, that's a perfect example of how Salesforce experience is good, but it's Salesforce experience plus some business experience in some capacity that really makes you marketable and interesting and valuable. Okay, I've got a lot of folks coming at me. So Alicia, you raised your hand, so I'm gonna respect that. You wanna share a little bit, Alicia, about your
Yes.
experience?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Well, I am fairly new to the Salesforce ecosystem, so my experience is probably very different from somebody that's been in the field for years, right? So I've acquired like at least 2 internships, and throughout my internships, the learning curve was very difficult. Not much very one-on-one mentorship going on. So when working at home for candidates that are jumping into the field, it can be very, very, very strenuous sometimes. But other than that, I think it's great. Like everybody said, you have flexibility to do whatever you want, right? Whenever you want to do it. So that's my insight.
Awesome, I appreciate that, Alicia. Thanks for jumping in and welcome to the community.
Thank you.
We've got some great stuff in the chat. I want to call out Marcus because Marcus is shouting out optional hybrid as his preferred method of back to work. If you're willing, Marcus, you want to share a little bit about where you're coming from?
Yeah, just being able to ask questions in person, it pays off, I think. You can go back and forth and email a lot and get lost in a email thread, and being in person to ask questions helps you kind of get to the root quicker, I guess. But yeah, occasionally the convenience of working home is nice, of course.
I think you bring up a really great point, Marcus, which is using the right tool for the right job when you're working remotely, right? And part of that is a culture shift too within the organization, right? If you don't have a Slack or an IM solution of some kind, right, get one and make sure that everyone feels empowered and enabled to IM somebody. If it says they're available, ping them, right, and ask them the question that you need to ask, or give them a quick call. I think we're seeing a resurgence of phone calls because of the pandemic. where it used to be, gosh, just email me and I'll, asynchronously respond to it when I need to. But I totally agree. Sometimes you just need to talk something out, and you can only do that in person. I think you can do that in person virtually if you have the right tool and you have the right culture around it. But yeah, there's no substitute for a one-on-one conversation. Chris raised your hand, so I'm gonna let Chris talk. What's up, Chris?
How you doing, Jeff? Hey,
Hey,
I'm gonna
Chris,
notice
thank
an old
you.
friend,
Look at that.
Bob Jeffress of yours here in
You
my
say hi,
my
Bob.
little. I will. So I want to just play on what you guys were talking there, because I guess I would contend we work part time, so 3 days remote, 2 days in the office. And I think I would contend that you can use something like a text message for, hey, where are you? Let's meet at this coffee shop, right? Like simple things, text messages work. If you need to, have a conversation with your brother about how, he's not being kind enough to your mom, like you probably better be on the phone, or better yet, getting coffee, right? Like the more difficult the thing is, the more like being able to use your, visual cues and even like the touching element, right? Like I don't know, workplace just to hug people, but you know what I'm saying? Like there's just a lot more to conveying ideas than just writing words on paper. And so I've had some experiences from being back in the office specifically. So at Script Pro, we do a lot of integration work. And, if you know Bob Jeffress, he's an expert at all that. Well, because we're in the office, there are just more opportunities, like things will pop up and it's like, okay, let's solve this now. But then while we're at it, like, Chris, let me impart some of this, very difficult, learning to you. And I think the part about where you're remote, every day you see that you don't drive to work. So you know that you don't have that con, but you don't see the things that you didn't learn or the things that you solved in a like less beautiful way that could have happened had you had interactions with real people.
I love that. That is such a great point. That value add, that additional thing, that extra moment that you wouldn't have had if you weren't in person or weren't at coffee or weren't on the phone or whatever. I totally agree. There's that extra magic, right, of interpersonal communication that happens when you're live and in person, That actually, I want to share this resource. I'm sure I've talked about it on this call before. Thanks, Chris, for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And do say hi to Bob for me. I love Bob. I love Trailhead. You know that about me. I'm a big Trailhead advocate. I contend that the best trail on Trailhead is managed the Salesforce way. It has nothing to do with Salesforce technical skills at all. There's no how-to involved. It has modules like organizational alignment and coaching and feedback and how to have a good one-on-one meeting and things like that. And I think I'm gonna use my favorite phrase, now more than ever, right? Those soft skills of managing down, through your set of employees, right? But also, maybe even more importantly, managing up, especially about organizational alignment, FaceTime. You were talking about Mackenzie, right? It's so critical to know how to maximize those engagements because you're having fewer of them, right? Or because they're less serendipitous. They don't just happen organically in the office. You have to make time for them. And so knowing how to have a good one-on-one meeting, both as an associate and a manager, right, is a really important skill. And I encourage everyone, if you haven't done it, do the Manage the Salesforce Way trail on Trailhead. I'll put it in the chat here. It's my absolute favorite. Along the same lines, just speaking of Trailhead, what we've talked about here so much of is, the right tools for the job, knowing how to communicate in the right way about the right stuff, having all of these different ways to work, the challenges of onboarding, the challenges of, Joanna, I think you talked about, finding out where stuff is, right? How do I get the tools that I need to do my work? If you pay attention to Salesforce at all, right? They've been pushing this for a while, and they really poured on the gas during the pandemic with the acquisition of Slack, with their Salesforce Anywhere platform. If you think about the next thing that Salesforce is going to really push, and that companies are inevitably going to purchase and want to implement, it's Salesforce Anywhere. So if you haven't searched Salesforce Anywhere on Trailhead, looked at some of the Salesforce Anywhere modules that are out there, started to get yourself familiar with the terms and the concepts that Salesforce is promoting that you will hear parroted from your managers or your team leads who are talking to those Salesforce executives or attending those Salesforce sessions. Do it. Get familiar with that stuff, because that's the next tool in the toolkit that they're going to expect you as an admin or developer or whatever to manage. Also, if you search Salesforce Anywhere on Trailhead, you're going to get a couple of really cool trails around, I don't know if you saw this when it came out, but succeeding from anywhere during COVID and administering Salesforce during COVID. And they speak to a lot of the things that we've been talking about. So I'm just going to put this trail, this sort of search in the chat. And I definitely recommend you to click that link, check out those trails and modules that are available there. I think they really speak to the heart of this sort of remote work environment that we've found ourselves in, and we're going to continue to find ourselves in going forward. So just wanted to share some resources there. We've had some more really great conversation in the chat. You know, I see comments from Lana, or Lana, don't know how to pronounce that, sorry, and Aaron and Corinne. Anybody want to speak? Elizabeth, I saw you talk about your experience. Anybody want to talk a little bit more about their personal experience with, you know, either a job transition that you've made recently, or a transition to remote work, or a continuation of remote work that has really impacted you?
Hey, this is Cole. I'm going to jump on, and I think, even though my pants comment in the chat earlier is going to be annoying, wearing pants again Monday through Friday, but I think one of the things that hit me hardest with the transition is I didn't realize how much I needed to like compartmentalize my at-home life and my work life. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. My commute to and from work was my way to get ready for work, and then to also detach from that and just get ready for home stuff, right? I have twin girls, they're 3.5 now. And like the ability to just kind of like decompress and ready myself for both situations was lacking. So that's something that I don't want to say I struggle with, but that's something that, you know, when the Federal Reserve Bank does go back to an in-person work presence, you know, I'll love the flexibility if they let us still work from home a couple days a week, but I will enjoy 3 days a week being able to kind of like just separate the two. Like living where you work for me was definitely the struggle that I dealt with in the beginning, and still kind of at times when it's really, really tough, continue to, you know, have a hard time with if it's a big day coming up where, you know, I have a lot going on, but then stuff at life happens. Life at home could be a distraction too. So those are just my thoughts on it.
And Cole, inevitably, right? You have this big day coming up at work, and you know, stuff hits the fan at home, and that's going to happen, right? But now you're in the thick of it, right? And you're also still having to do your job. That's really challenging. You know, I always joke about how it took me like 9 months to actually get a desk at home, because I was like Mackenzie said, we all thought this was going to be temporary. You know, when we started this thing, it was like, oh, it'll be, you know, a few months, and then we'll get out the other side of it, right? And I think there was something mental about like, oh gosh, if I get a desk, then it's like real, and I have like an office at home, and I have to like you said, live where I work. I agree. Taking those steps to find ways to compartmentalize, right? Whether it's you know, turning your do not disturb on your Outlook app, you know, so that way you don't get buzzes after a certain time, right? Or having that formal like desk space that you can close off and say, okay, I'm done with that for the day. That was a really important thing for me. You know, for the first part of the pandemic, I was working all around the house, right? I was working on the couch. I was working, you know, at the dining room table, and I was working too much. And I had to really commit to, okay, this is my office space. This is my desk. When I'm here, I'm working. When I'm not here, I'm not working. And I had to kind of come to terms with that. So I totally agree with where you're coming from. I think we've all experienced that. And it is a new skill set that we had to learn, right? Of how to do that compartmentalization. And I'm sure I'm not perfect at it yet. I don't think any of us are. Awesome stuff. Any other feedback? This has been such a great discussion. I really appreciate everyone engaging so much. You know, I love this topic. I said at the beginning I was really excited about it because it's not a normal like Salesforce how-to topic. I mean, this is our life, right? I mean, this is our career. You know, I was watching Mackenzie as you were sharing, you know, the pros and cons, right? And I really would encourage everyone on this call to think about, you know, what do you want your work-life balance to look like over the next, or 6 months from now, right? Fast forward to 6 months from now. Do you want to be living where you're living? Do you want to be at the job where you're at? Do you want to be working fully remote? Do you want to be working in a hybrid environment? I think, you know, one of the things we learned from this presentation, Mackenzie, and thanks for putting all this data together, is whatever you want, there's a job out there for you right now, right? That meets those criteria. And so, you know, if you want that optional hybrid approach, at least for a little while until they realize how expensive it is, it's out there. You know, if you want that fully remote job, it's definitely out there. If you want to leave KC and go live in Idaho, you know, you could do that too. So I really take a step back. We've been sort of, I don't know, I'll speak for myself. It's just been go, 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 right? And it's been like, do all this stuff, change how our lives work, change how our career works. It's been really full on and like kind of nonstop really since the pandemic began. You know, whether you were in a full-time position and having to, you know, get a bunch of stuff done. I talked about the PPP program I had to help, you know, put together here sort of out of the blue. I think we all had sort of experiences like that. And now's a good time to sort of take a pause and step back and reflect on what the last 18 months was like. And I think the world's your oyster. You can do what you want to do. And Mackenzie and I, you know, will collaborate after this, get some even better data, some more specific data around roles, maybe some other locations even, and share that with the team. Because I think, you know, the big message from this today is, again, there's an opportunity out there for you if you're not 100% happy with where you're at or what you're doing. And that opportunity might be in KC, it might be nationally, but it's really up to you. So just thanks again. I really, really appreciate the engagement, everybody. I'm sorry Dale missed this. He's going to be sad when he watches the recording. Mackenzie, any parting words that you want to share before you sort of wrap up your piece of the puzzle? Any questions you want to ask?
Just will reiterate what you said. I mean, there's so many opportunities out there. When I talk to candidates that are actively looking for jobs, of course, always one question is, what's your salary expectation and what's competitive for you financially? But on top of that conversation, I always ask them, okay, what are the other factors and variables you use to make a decision? What is important to you? And how do you rank those things? For everybody, salary is not the most important piece. So with this presentation, my goal was to give everyone the opportunity that when you do sit down and say, what's important to me? What am I looking for? What are the variables I'm considering in whether keeping this position or finding a new one? I hope that I was able to provide a little bit of just data and context to help you take those things that are important to you, see what's going on in the market, and then do everything you can do to place yourself in a competitive place in this market and to pursue things that are going to be a fit because they're out there. I've never seen hiring like this before. So now is a good time to look. I will also, you know, like Jeff said, I'll send some more details and forms with salary averages within job titles, within different locations. I'll try to give you guys as much specific information as possible that you can take and keep on your desk while you're having these conversations and making these decisions. And then feel free to add me on LinkedIn. I would love to talk to you guys, connect with you. A lot of my colleagues here in Kansas City and then outside of KC have made Salesforce a huge push. So I'm hopeful that if you guys are actively looking for opportunities, I could help either give you some direction or connect you with my clients. Or if you are just looking to talk about the situation you're in, if you have feedback on my presentation, or just I'm interested in hearing your experiences and what's going on right now. You can look at data all day long, but what helps me be a better recruiter is understanding what's going on at an individual level with people in their jobs. So I would love to hear from you guys. Feel free to add me, and thank you for engaging with this. It was fun for me and to share with you and then to hear all of your just feedback and situations that you're into. So thank you.
Thanks, Mackenzie. And I want to piggyback on that and say, this data is really helpful, right? This sort of aggregate data, but I'm going to say it. Reach out to people that you see on this call or that you see in the community and ask them about, we have to destigmatize the salary conversation and the benefits conversation, right? All that does is benefit the employer if we're not talking about it, right? So as a labor market in the Kansas City metro of Salesforce professionals, it is in our best interest to be open and honest about our employment experiences, and that includes salaries, that includes benefits, that includes, remote work configuration. So if you have questions about what's going on in a particular organization, or you see somebody on the call that you want to ask questions like, hey, what is your role and what do you get paid to do that role? I think that's okay. And obviously, you can feel empowered to say no, or you're not comfortable to talk about that. But I just want to encourage everyone to try to be more open and honest about that with each other, because I think it helps us all, as we have those conversations. So reach out on LinkedIn, reach out in the Trailblazer community. It's a safe space for us to have those conversations. Sam asked, can we get salary data based on organization size? So if you can put that in your on your notes.
Let me try.
Cool, thanks. Awesome. Well, again, I can't say enough thanks you everybody for the engagement. Any non sort of off-topic questions? Marcus, I'm going to start with yours. You asked, what about these meetings? Are we going to start doing these meetings in person again? What's the plan for that? I wish I had a plan for you. I don't. I don't feel empowered to have that conversation without Dale here. So let me talk with him offline a little bit. I didn't come prepared with an answer today, but certainly sound off in the community if you have opinions, because we'd love to hear them. But any other non sort of topic related questions? Yeah, hybrid meeting, Cole. Maybe someday. I'd like that. Doing a live broadcast of an in-person meeting is challenging, and that the logistics are tough. We talked about that last time, but sure, I'll give you a maybe, Cole. Any other off-topic questions that we want to raise before we close the meeting? Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks, everybody. I'll let folks sign off. If people want to stay and talk a little bit more, Alicia just asked a great question about gaining experience starting out. If anyone wants to answer that, feel free to do so. But at this point, we're just kind of open Q&A until folks decide to leave. So thanks again for being here, and we'll see you again in September. Alicia, I'll start. I worked at an organization that implemented Salesforce and didn't have anyone to run it. And so I just sort of became the de facto admin because I was interested in technology. I was on the sales team and I was tasked with using Salesforce, and there was nobody I could go to ask questions about how to use Salesforce. So I started answering them myself. How did other people gain experience when they first started out?
That's basically my story as well. It was like the person who knew how to run it left, and they're like, "You're pretty good with technology. Why don't you do that?" So I still feel like, I don't know about you, Jeff, but I still feel like sometimes that grates against, I work in IT, right? So my default is, what does the sales team want? How do they get that quickly? If some stuff's broken, so what? If the thing works, I'll fix the broken stuff then right then, and it'll be done. And that doesn't go real well with an IT sort of approach, if you will.
Yes, as somebody who's sat in your exact seat, I can agree wholeheartedly. The first time I was in so when I got to Script Pro, I was probably 6 years in or so in my Salesforce journey. I had yet to be in an IT organization. I'd always been on a sales team, on a marketing team, on a sales ops team, something like that, right? Embedded in the business. And it was a challenge. It was a struggle to sort of shift gears and think about things from a IT development, agile approach, waterfall approach. And so, yeah, that's tough. I am much more the kind of person who's like, we'll do it in production. If it breaks, it breaks, right? That's just my MO. Don't tell Bob I said that. But I think that's okay when you're first starting out, right? Like, and it depends on the work size and all that stuff, right? When I was an admin for a small, less than 50 employees, financial services, like wealth management firm here in town in my early days. And, if I did something in production and I broke something, like 2 people noticed. So like it wasn't life or death, right? If something happened, but now I'm at a company where I've got 175 users, and if I break something, a lot of people notice, and I get a lot of emails right away. So I've had to adjust my approach, but getting your feet wet and jumping in and doing stuff is always the best way to learn. I see comments about Trailhead, obviously, great place to get experience. Is it experience or is it training? It depends on who you ask. Trailhead has so much on, hands-on stuff that I would say, especially super badges, I would say fall in the experience bucket. In a super badge, you're being given business requirements and asked to complete tasks, right? And I think that is very much what real life is. I think the thing that super badges don't do a good job of is teaching you the business analyst side of it, and the part that is how do I ask the right questions to get the requirements, because usually businesses don't know what they need or what to ask for. So the sandbox stuff, or the Trailhead playground stuff is really great, and doing as much Trailhead as you can is a really great place to start. I never did a coding boot camp or like Salesforce Ben or anything like that. Cole or Chatoyer, do you want to speak to that a little bit in your experience?
Sure. So after graduating with my undergraduate degree, I didn't get a job in engineering, but there's a coding boot camp for about 3 months. I did focus on Salesforce every day as a job. And through that, I got a few certifications. But the main goal of that wasn't necessarily the business analyst role. It was just more developer and admin. But getting into my first role as consultant, that's where I kind of got to meet the business. And one of the things that I think is very useful is having a mindset to help your end users learn. Because a lot of business users, it's just a tool. It's a Microsoft Excel. It's something that they use. But once you get them like interested in the tool and develop your own power users, it makes life a bit easier.
I love that. Comments on Salesforce Ben, Cole? Anything you want to share about that experience?
Yeah, so I was just responding when it comes to how do I know if I'm ready for my certification or not.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the big one was, all the free tests, mock exams you can take, the more the better, right? The question was, how many badges on Trailhead do I need to get before I feel like I'm ready? I think when it comes to that, as far as just the plethora of knowledge on there has been spoken to, I love the trail mixes, especially the ones that are dedicated for app builder, admin, advanced admin. And then one of the ones I just added in the chat is like a great, way to show off that you know what you're doing, especially if it's for a company that's just rolling out Salesforce and really diving into it. You can show them how to build an experience cloud, which is huge, like a digital experience where they can communicate with their customers on top of you knowing how to do it just for your personal resume experience, and say, hey, go to this website, I built it. It's just a fantastic experience there. But no, just when it comes to, prepping for the cert, I think it's just the mock exams. If you haven't heard of Focus on Force, look up Focus on Force. I really like that one for the mock exams, but there are a lot of free ones out there too.
Cool, thanks. yeah, I can't say enough about the trail mixes. They have a bunch now that are specifically designed around cert prep. And generally speaking, we kind of got off topic of experience, but when it comes to cert prep, if you're asking the question, am I ready to take a cert? You're ready to take a cert because you're always more ready than you think you are to take the cert. Because, you know, imposter syndrome, self-doubt, whatever, right? So if you're even wondering like, oh gosh, am I ready? Should I schedule? Schedule it. Because even if you don't pass, you're going to get a breakdown of what you don't know, and that's hugely valuable, right? So I always tell people, just sign up and do the thing, rip the Band-Aid off, and then you'll realize it's not so painful.
Signing up is key, or you'll keep kicking the bucket. You keep kicking the rock down the road. If you just just peg a date, right? So, and then you'll have it.
Exactly. Sam, yes, overstudied. Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Could have done it a long time before. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, I may have missed this during the call, but I wanted to ask Mackenzie, is there a conversion factor for certifications? Because I have 14 and I kind of feel that that's a bit too much. And sometimes like I hope that it's useful, but I don't have like the 6 to 10 years experience, but I'm a application architect, a system architect to Salesforce, but like I can't really get that role because I haven't been working that long.
So it's a hard one and everyone has a different opinion on this. So I will just tell you what I've seen from my clients. Certifications are awesome. It's something that I encourage so much. I do think that your certifications should line up in some capacity with your experience and what you've been doing on a professional standpoint. If you go into an interview or, or if your resume even has 3 to 4 years of experience and then 15 certifications and only, 5 or 6 of those line up with what you've been doing and the jobs that you're targeting, I think that can give the employer the wrong idea and make it almost seem like you're trying to put a mask on your resume and show more experience than you have. On the flip side of that, I think that having very specific certifications and something you're interested in moving into is awesome and sets you apart from other people. So I know that was kind of a backwards answer. My answer is both. I think certifications are awesome. I think that there should be a correlation between how many years of experience you have, how many certifications you have, and there should be quite a bit of crossover in the type of certifications you're getting, the actual type of work you've been doing in the jobs that you're pursuing. Was that helpful?
Yeah, so the reason I have so many, I used to follow Gemma, who did Ladies Be Architect. And as a consultant, I got pulled into a lot of meetings where we had to do proof of concepts on this topic and that topic. And of course, I was definitely nervous. So reading Salesforce documentation, reading the trailheads, doing trail mixes, and the certifications kind of just popped out because I was ready to meet with VPs and whatever, because they were very serious and these are big decisions and you're doing a proof of concept.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would say, something to think about with certs. I have found that certifications are much more valuable to consultant hirers than they are to customer hires, right? So your average customer out there, let's be really honest. A lot of customers, a lot of direct Salesforce customers don't know that much about Salesforce, especially when they're first starting out. And so you go into a customer and you say, oh, I've got all these certifications. They don't really know what that means. And it really is going to come down to the interviewer, right? Somebody who has experience in IT or has experience with certifications and believes they're valuable, great, you might do well. But you're just as likely to get somebody who doesn't know or care about those certifications and is going to look at the number of years of experience on your resume and go, I don't care about these certifications, right? On the flip side, if you're a Salesforce consultant, if you're a Salesforce partner, the reality is you have certification targets that you have to hit. And so if you have certifications, you are valuable to that consultant because they have to have a certain percentage of their people certified. And then there are other targets about the total number of certifications that they have to achieve or maintain different partner statuses, right? So maybe it's just a matter of looking at consultants for hire as opposed to direct hire businesses, that might be helpful. Something to consider.
Yeah, something I would add there, and Mackenzie, you can probably speak more to this, but when I was interviewing last year, I had 3 different companies that ended up being offered to, and I didn't have any Salesforce certifications at that time. But what I had was the companies had the position listed out. What do we want you to do? And those fit what I had done well. So what I did and what I think a good interviewee will always do is find out what is it that you want. I mean, it's sales, right? Like what is the person looking for? Okay, item 1, you have to be able to accomplish this. All right, let me tell you the story about when I've accomplished that before. Like I think that's sort of the main thing that they're looking for, and then certifications build into that and can help give certification to what you're talking about. Like someone else is certified that you know about that thing.
I find certifications to be most valued to junior level candidates. That's probably not true across the board all the time, but usually I see them being the biggest leg up to people that are in the first 5 years of their career max.
Yeah, because the certification is an indicator, right? Okay, you might not have the years of experience, but you took the time to learn the thing and prove to me that you learned the thing by getting certified. And so I was asking for 4 years of experience, but you're coming in with 2 years, but you have the admin cert and the advanced admin cert. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, and I'll hire you, right? But I agree with you 100%, Mackenzie. At a certain point, for the higher up the chain you go, they care less about the certifications and candidly, even the technical aptitude, and it's much more about the years of experience. Have you been around the block? Have you seen these scenarios? Do you know what it means to implement? Do you know what it means to run a Salesforce instance, right? And that's just a very different skill set. They're not going to care about even architect level certifications. I report to the chief commercial banking officer here at Academy Bank. I don't even think he knows that I have certifications, and he wouldn't care if I did, because he's not interested in my Salesforce technical knowledge in that capacity, right? Yep. What's important to him is, do I meet the threshold? And once I meet the threshold, he doesn't care anymore, right? And I just think that's the case across the board.
I often think certifications make up for a lack of professional or technical experience. And sometimes enhance it. And at some point though, your experience speaks for itself and your certifications become, I don't want to say obsolete, because obviously you put time and effort and knowledge into those, but.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm thinking too, like the hiring manager, tell me about a time where you had to accomplish a project and you didn't know the technology that was involved. So you went out and gained the capabilities of that, right? Like that's more impressive to tell that story than to be like, look at these 27 software systems that I got. And if you didn't use it right away, you probably are forgetting that knowledge over time anyway, right?
Yeah, it's true.
We didn't mean to be so hard down on certification. I think it came across that way. Like they're still good, right, Mackenzie? But just don't rely on them as a substitute for experience. And like for me, the challenge is, what can I learn new today? Like what capability, like what projects, what problems can I solve? Like do that. It helps your employer, but I think it helps you more because you get to take that with you everywhere you go. So like solve the problems the best you can. You're helping yourself, you're helping your company too.
And there's a certain amount of, the other thing I want to say about that is certs are, I think some people, I think even me earlier in my career would have said, well, getting a cert is a great way to increase your salary, right? If I walk in with 0 certs versus if I walk in with 4 certs, I'm going to get X dollars more. And I think, to Mackenzie's point about junior level employees, I think that's true at a point, but there's sort of a diminishing returns with the certs, right? And like, at some point you get over a certain number and it's just like, okay, well, yeah, we get it. And you're going to get what you're going to get. And we're not going to care that, we're not going to give you that extra $2,000 bonus because you got the admin cert like you might have when you were a junior level admin, right? So that's just the other comment about that. It is, Mackenzie, I think you said it, right? It is a certification of what you learned. It's not a substitute for that experience, right? So it's an indicator. I think of it the same way as going to school, right?
Yes.
You go and you get your bachelor's degree, and the bachelor's degree itself is valuable, sure, but it's all the things that you had to do to get the bachelor's degree that is what tells the company that you're ready for a job, right? It's the time management of waking up and going to class every day and getting things done on time, or not. I see you laughing, Chris. Getting things done on time, right? Knowing how to manage your teachers, knowing how to manage people in class and group projects and all that stuff. Like, that's the stuff that goes
Right.
into that bachelor's degree, and it's the same thing with the cert.
But after 15 years in the professional workforce, most people don't care if you have your bachelor's degree or not.
Right.
Just to be honest. But when you're 2-3 years out, it's a really different story. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good
And
analogy.
for me, as somebody who didn't have a bachelor's degree in a technical field, having certifications early on helped me, right? Because again, it was showing, hey, I got the chops to do the work to own this job, right? Even though, I didn't match your criteria in your, fancy search engine that was looking for your apps, right? I didn't have the bachelor's degree in computer science, but guess what? I can still do it, right? There's a hand raised. Is it Lana?
It's Lana. I actually just wanted to make a comment regarding the certifications. It just seems like sort of like new to the whole Salesforce ecosystem, just like 2-3 years. And it just, one of the first things I started to notice, the culture there is like, seems like people are competing for the number of certifications. So I think it's very difficult to sort of like say, hey, I'm going to focus on my professional experience and just do everything perfectly at my job. And all you're doing is just that. So you have 3 years of experience, so is everybody else. You're applying for a job, and it's just very natural to say, hey, in order to differentiate yourself, everyone is going to have bachelor's, maybe some masters. Everyone has that 3 years of experience. So the route that, for example, like I would decide to go with is like to certify, get more certification. So that way someone who has 3 years, but guess what, now I have 15, in addition to what I was doing, I was also studying for certification. So that takes me to 2 things, that to get each certification, it takes a long time, even for those who are kind of able to clear it like in a very short period of time. Somebody can do it in 2 weeks versus someone in 2 months. But still, when they're like when an individual is jumping from one employment to another, when there's that takes like, let's say, I don't know, 3 years. So when they kind of ready to take that next opportunity, it seems like employers want to see, that's great, but how can we see that you take initiative of your own career and what else you do out there? So when a person spends a lot of time on just Salesforce, so if you're doing Salesforce at your job, after 5 you're studying for certification, it feels like you're getting like, I don't know, like some kind of robot who's been doing days and nights like Salesforce. So I don't know, like how can you make sure you're doing very good at your current employment, you're doing something else for the next stop, but also have the balance instead of like, it's some kind of like circle where you wanna do something for your future and be everywhere at once, sort of.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really appreciate you saying that. I really agree. I think a lot of it has to do with sort of where you're at in your career. We talked about this a little bit in the chat, right? But like, for at least the first half of my career, when I was getting hired, it wasn't because of my Salesforce experience. It was because I came from a marketing organization, or I came from a sales background, or I came from whatever, right? And so when you think about, okay, what do I do as a junior level Salesforce person to try to prepare myself to take the next step in my career? I think doing the Salesforce stuff is good, but maybe you start on Trailhead, maybe you go elsewhere, but exploring some of the non-Salesforce stuff that's out there, right? Look at the sales operations trails, right? Look at the marketing trails. Look at the service contact center trails, right? Find something that's non-Salesforce that dovetails with Salesforce technology that you can be passionate about, that's interesting to you, that you want to make a difference about, and and try to get some experience in that arena. You know, maybe that's at work saying, hey, you know, feed me the cases that are coming in from the service center. I want to learn more about service. I want to be more of a service expert. So that when you go into that interview, like Chris was saying, right, you can speak to it from not only from a technical, here's the buttons I pushed to make the thing go, right? But also, why did you do it that way? And what did you learn about the business process that informed the way that you built the app or wrote the flow or whatever, right? So yes, you're right. Going in and just coming at it from a Salesforce only approach, or, you know, let's focus on certs, let's focus on badges, et cetera, right? Like, that's all good in theory, right? But, you know, going and scattershotting badges just to get to a ranger, right? Doesn't really do you any good. You know, you gotta pick a path, and you're not stuck there, right? But at least go deep and not just wide with your experience, and that's how you can impress an interviewer, right? Or have interesting, you know, nuggets to put on your resume about problems you solved that they might be looking for.
Thank you. And I also wanted to hear other people's like maybe ideas on, does anyone have any stories on what kind of path teenagers can take? Because it's kind of very friendly for people who, let's say, switch in their careers, for people who retired and want to kind of do something on the side. They want to sort of transfer their whatever like skills that they've gathered over the last 30 years, and now they see there are opportunities in Salesforce. But I also see Salesforce is targeting to younger audiences, and I have, let's say, a couple nieces and a kid myself, and I always encourage them to study like on Trailhead and watch those Trailhead live videos. So I'm not sure what I would have to kind of how to mentor them and direct them as their next. So they may have, let's say, this Trailhead and they understand how the CRM works, but what would be, because the one way you can motivate young children, like, or let's say young individuals, is by giving them like, let's say, jobs or things like that. Where they can earn money. That's their motivation to do Trailhead currently. But I don't know, somebody who's, let's say, a 30-year-old adult who has maybe like that degree and soft skills and some other professional experience versus these kids, what would be the way to get their foot into this industry? What strategies could they possibly take? Does anybody have any recommendation on that, some ideas?
Jeff, you're muted.
Yeah, I was so good about it the whole time. Thank you.
Oh.
Let's start with the career switch gears person, because Daniel's still on and he's my poster child for this. So Daniel, can you tell your story?
Sure. Let me get my headset set. Yeah, so I was not happy being a truck driver, and then I knew somebody who was in Salesforce, said, hey, you should think about this. I said, Salesforce, really? And they said, yeah, it's a cheesy name. But I did the Trailhead thing and got a cert, and really I just decided, so I was, after work, I was doing the Trailheads. After about 6 months, I was like, should I stay or should I go now? So, and then took the cert, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And then for the next 6 months, it was just crickets because I have no experience. So a cert doesn't get you anything. I had to network like crazy and meet people and smile and learn from all these conversations that are going on. And now that we don't have those in-person meetings, that's a little bit harder to do. So I had to network like crazy, and all of the jobs I got is because I met somebody at the user group meeting, and I didn't have to fill out applications. It was, hey, this guy's a hard worker. He's doing it the right way, and they trusted me, and so they gave me a shot. And that first shot was like $10 an hour, man. I would do anything. I was volunteering, and then $10 an hour is better than volunteering. So, now, I mean, the certs have added up to now that these consultancies want me on their team. I'm learning so much from these guys. I'll say this: the consultancy gig, man, it is fast paced and it is tough, and you have got to know your stuff. And so I learned a lot, but I think they kept hiring above me, and above me, these solution architects. There's more and more of them flooding out there. I just got kind of kicked off the bottom of the rung there. So now I'm back out on the market looking for work again. But that consultancy job, you learn a lot really fast. I think I am happier being a solo admin for a small company where I have 2 weeks to get this done and go find the answer, where it is these guys are paying you $250. You better know the answer now. $250 an hour at these consultancies. You need to know the answer now. So that was really high paced work there. But anyone can do this. I'm a truck driver with no degree, no experience in IT, and Trailhead helped me get there.
Amazing story. Thanks, Dan.
That's an awesome story, Danielle.
He's my favorite story. Anytime he's on to tell about it, I love hearing it. It's my favorite. And one thing I wanted to touch back on, because Jeff, you brought it up earlier, consultancy firms are looking for you to be badged up, right? Like you've got to have them in order for it to benefit them. And that kind of relates to like getting a cert is one thing, but you got to know what you want to do. You got to know whether you want to be a solo admin, like Daniel said. He's done both, right? Like he's done the solo admin work and the consulting work, and now he's like, now I know what I want. So it really helps going in because that's the difference between all this time and all this money for all these certifications to just one, maybe two, right? Because you can know as much as a certified technical architect and maybe have 1 to 2 certs, but a consultancy is going to make you have those. An in-home admin that, builds one of the most complex, super efficient Salesforce ecosystems that there is, could have 1 or 20 certs, right? It just depends on what you want to do. And that's my one little nugget, I guess, for as little or as much as I know about it so far, is just know what you want to do. And that kind of helps to really focus your time and energy to kind of what Chris says, right? Like selling yourself on the interview and just showing that you know how to do something rather than, hey, I've spent the time and the money and the effort to go get these certifications. So know what you want to do. Be my only thing.
And for those of you who don't know what you want to do, that's okay too. Reach out to people like us who are doing the thing and ask us what we think, right? Like, ask Daniel, what was it like working at a consulting firm, right? What was it? What was the experience? What did you like? What did you not like? Reach out and ask me. I've done all sorts of things. I've worked in IT, out of IT. I'm finally managing associates for the first time, so that's an experience. So ask, because you can do the career path thing on Trailhead, but that's going to give you like this much information. You got to find people, and like Daniel said, network like crazy to understand what the opportunities are, right? And what you might want to do and who you might want to do it with, right? Because that's just as valuable sometimes. Thanks, Cole. Appreciate it. One last thing, because I have to jump off as well for 1 o'clock, but you asked for student-related stuff, and I have to answer that. So there's one trail out there on Trailhead called Rock Your Future with Salesforce, and the content is whatever. It's not great. But the resources that are in those trails modules are valuable. There's a lot of great links in there to other stuff that's not on Trailhead that can be valuable. And specifically, I want to call out this one, which is the Salesforce University Recruiting Program. It's called Future Force. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. They have a bunch of different paths on there for different types of people. So if you've got high school students or early college students and they're looking what they want to do, you can do there's intern pathways or really just like learning experience sort of pathways on Future Force that might be of interest to you or to your students. Otherwise, I would say, find a code academy, coding for kids sort of thing in your area. I know we have some here in Kansas City, and try to get them enrolled, right? And if you could find one, I don't think there's one specifically that I know of that has Salesforce, on the books as like a solo course, but ask, maybe they can make it happen for you. That's all I got about it. I don't know much about it, to be honest, but I've shared what I could.
Thank you so much. appreciate for sharing your thoughts.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. It is 1 o'clock. We're going to officially say goodbye. So appreciate the conversation and the dialogue. And we will get this recording posted as soon as we can.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank
Bye.
you.